Welcome. Well, I am here before you to tell you it is a very interesting thing trying to work with vintage Mac computers and making videos at the same time. I have been struggling with QuickTime on the Power Mac G4 Sawtooth for about half an hour now, trying first of all to get audio, then to get audio that wouldn't just echo back and forth endlessly. I think I have the trick now. I've got to turn the speaker all the way down so the microphone can actually record me. Well, anyway, we'll hope that it works. You may remember that I had uploaded a couple of videos where I introduced this new, to me anyway, comparatively new Power Mac G4 Sawtooth. And I said at that point that I was going to try living with it as my primary, if not my only computer for the next week. I have done that. And no, it has not been my only computer. Not at all. When some things did come up this week that needed to get done, and I needed to make sure they got done and done correctly, I was back to the Mac Pro. It's only 10 years old. But man, it's a good computer. Anyway, I have mostly worked here with the Sawtooth over the course of this week, and I'm here now to begin reporting. I don't know exactly when this will get up. I had commented about the oral surgery that I had. I'm glad to report that I have been recovering pretty well. I can almost speak now. But round 2 is tomorrow. Oh well, we shall see. So I'm just going to start the report on what's going on here. And you'll see in the various clips that go into this, and also I'll have some final thoughts at the very end. I would say one thing. When I did the same thing with my Power Mac Dual G5, I made a comment as I did the introduction to that video about how slow the machine was. Let me tell you, I didn't understand at that point what slow really was. I longed for the days of the Power Mac G5 and the zip that it had. Man, this machine is slow. It is old. It was introduced in the year 2000, so it's fully 20 years old now. It was more of a mid-range computer at the time, whereas the Power Mac was intended to be a power user's computer. The Power Mac G5, power user's computer, that is. Yet still, this is a computer. It is working now. I apologize, by the way, for what I'm sure is the very poor quality of this video. But hey, I did it in the Sawtooth, at least this clip. It can do things. If you track down the right software, there are a lot of things it can still do. There are some things it cannot really do. There are some things it can do, but boy, do you have to be patient. Now, people who know me, I think, will generally tell you that I am a patient man. That patience has been tested over the course of this week. So anyway, let's get into this so you can actually see what's going on. There'll be a number of clips. Camera capture, of course, the only way to do it, certainly on a G4. And there'll be, at the end, I'll sum it up with some thoughts there. All right, so I don't know exactly when it will be up. I do have oral surgery again to recover from, but all right. Can you use a Power Mac G4 Sawtooth in 2020? The answer is, yeah, sure you can. if you're willing to amend what you use a computer for. We are booted right now into the Mac OS 10.4.11. Hello. Oh, there we go. 10.4.11 Tiger. This is a 450 megahertz PowerPC G4 with 2 gigabytes of RAM, which is the maximum it will accept. I'd like to start out talking about the things that it can do. Office productivity. There is NeoOffice. As with anything on this machine, it's going to take a while to load. But here it comes. It will come, I promise you. You're getting a little glimpse into what my life has been like this last week. Okay. NeoOffice Writer. Typing is going to be a real challenge the way I have the camera set up to capture most of the screen. Okay. Now, if we go to save this, hello. It's going to try to save it as an ODT, which is the Open Office format. But we can save it in Word 2003, 2007. It's going to be docx. 97, 95 doc. You know, all those formats are available. This is important because with any Office document you write, whether it's word processing or spreadsheet or whatever, you may very well want to save it, share it with other people who are probably using Word or at the very least an Office suite that can read MS Office files. So NeoOffice does that. It does many other things as well. It's not what I wanted. Spreadsheet, presentation, drawing, the databases, HTML documents. I talked about Neo in an earlier video. It's a full-featured Office suite and works really nicely on OS X, and particularly these older versions of OS X. Okay, we're going to discard that. We don't need to save it. So we have that. Now, here's one. When I was teaching, I used this all the time. Disregard the fact that that icon said Broderbund. This is actually the software Makiv version of the print shop. I used this to create flyers and banners, announcements of various kinds, my programs, all of that got put together using the print shop when I was teaching instrumental music. Just today, I used this to create an online greeting. Not this particular one. Oh, I didn't mount the CD. Okay, and I'm not going to take the time to do that. I do have the CD disc image there. I won't take the time to do that. We'll see more of that later on. But it's there, and once the CD image is mounted, all of the graphics are there. Everything works perfectly well. Okay, we also have iWorks 09 installed, Core Player, Media Player, VLC Media Player, QuickTime 7 is installed and works. Okay, the entire iLife suite, iCal, GarageBand, iWeb to create a website, iDVD, iMovie. No, I am not going to edit this video on the Sawtooth. I hate to think what it would look like. There is an iTunes version, iPhoto, all of this. Now, Safari is there. What the heck it went? Maybe there it is. Safari, Mail are both there, but there are better options. Now, for Mail, 10.4 Bird. If you saw my video concerning the Power Mac G5, you may remember 10.4 Bird. Here on the G4 Sawtooth, it takes a long while to load. However, once it does load, it works extremely well. I can get to all of my email addresses. All the mail comes in. I can send out. It's actually, once it finally does load, as I said, it works very much like any kind of modern email application. So email is a definite success. All right. Now, as far as the internet, 10.4 Fox, optimized for the 7400 PowerPC processor. Again, it takes a long time to load. I'm going to close one of these two tabs. Tab browsing, as wonderful as it is, does have a tendency to eat up system resources. On our modern machines, that's not so much of a problem, but on this old machine, system resources are a primary concern. All right. You can go pretty much anywhere. There are sites that won't display, but most will. They'll take a while to load. I'm going to close out of that. If you have not seen my earlier video concerning the Foxbox and trying to watch YouTube videos, you might find that amusing. It is possible. It is not recommended. All right. Now, so far, everything does work, so there's a lot the machine can do. However, if you look at my ordinary method of working on a computer, and to see what's going on, I'm going to open Activity Monitor. I usually won't run Activity Monitor because it, in and of itself, will eat up a lot of system resources. where I would suggest that you look is here in the CPU percentage. And you see activity monitor is eating up a fair amount. Okay, you can glance down here at system resources. Now, having just restarted the machine, we've got most of our RAM free for the system memory. All right, now, on a modern Mac, one of the first things I would do is open my email program. And you can see we've shot up 80% CPU usage, 81%, 92%, zipping right up in the program. This is just the program opening. Over 90% now. And finally, 10.4 Bird is up and running. Well, almost. Now, I have found this week that it can be helpful to leave Activity Monitor running just to get an idea. You can see it starting to calm down a little bit now that it's loaded. One of the things about an email program, though, is even when it's just sitting there seemingly doing nothing, periodically it's doing things. It's polling the various email servers for new messages, etc. Okay, but it's calmed down. So, having that open, I would also open my web browser. Now you see it's reading 10.4 Bird reads as Thunderbird in the activity monitor. That's what it's based on. 10.4 Fox reads as Firefox. All right, 82, 62, and between the two, it's a lot of system resources being eaten up. All right, now we can help a little bit by closing one of these tabs. The less you use tabs, the better for this old machine. Okay, now we've calmed down. If you don't do anything with 10.4 Fox, it's not too bad. But let's go to Google. And it shot up to over 80%. And you can go to more challenging sites. It's going to take up a lot. Going to YouTube, of course, is very challenging for it. All right, but in my normal workflow, it's over 90% now. Now, Thunderbird has calmed down, maybe allowing 10.4 Fox to take over more of the CPU. Now, that's starting to calm down. Now, I might very well, let's say, have a word processing document or a spreadsheet open. Now, the very opening of a program eats up a lot of the CPU. This is reading as S-Office. Okay, now it's reading as New Office. All right. Anytime a program opens, it chews up most of the CPU. Now both 10.4 Fox and 10.4 Bird have backed down, allowing it to open. But what I would tend to do maybe is have my word processing document or my spreadsheet open, finding data through the web browser, in the meanwhile polling for emails in case something comes in that needs my attention. Honestly, I can have all three open and it works, but if I start going back and forth between the three of them, yeah, it will bog down to nothing. you can see the. I've seen just 10-4 Fox get up as high as 150%. I don't know how it does that of the CPU. All right, so let me close out of these things. Just let the whole thing calm down. The big takeaway of this is multitasking as we know it on a modern computer is impossible. If you deal just with one task at a time, it is doable. And if you're willing to eliminate watching YouTube videos, because as you saw from that video I did on that, it's I did it this week just because I was determined that I was going to do it, but I certainly wouldn't want to. Okay, and we can close out of activity monitor. Now, for the remainder of the video, I want to take just a quick look at the other operating systems that are installed on this machine. Now, it's a funny thing. Ordinarily, when you start up a Mac, you can hold down the Option key and you'll get the boot picker. The machine will find all of the various operating systems that are available, and you can choose between those options for the one that you want. This won't do that. The monitor will just shut itself down. If I go into the other OSs, it will, but much easier. Okay, we're going to take a look at Panther now and restart. Take a good look at the background image, just so you can see the difference when Panther starts up. Why did Apple do away with the boot chime? That iconic sound. All right, here we come with Next OS. All right, now I need to make a monitor adjustment. Pardon my thumb. Tiger is able to make use of the entire monitor screen. The others are not quite, although the display is pretty good. And I found, for whatever reason, I don't really understand it, the VGA output works better than DVI. Don't ask me why, but hey, that is. Okay, now one of the big problems that I found, and I've got to blame Apple for this one. If you look at About This Mac 10.3.2, Panther topped out, I believe, at 10.3.9. And I've been trying to install programs. There have been 3 at least. iWorks for one, that simply wouldn't install because it required 10.3.6. Yet, if I click Software Update, I'm up to date. Why? Apple removed the links. You can't update any OS earlier than Tiger. I think the install disk I had for Tiger was 10.4.4. It doesn't really matter. But I could click software update and bang, it updated to 10.4.11, the final version. Panther won't do that. So there are programs I cannot install. I was able to install the print shop. I'm glad of that. 10.4 Fox, that worthy web browser, will work on G3s, G4s, and G5s with slightly different versions for those processors. But it will only work on 10.4 Tiger and 10.5 Panther. It will not work on 10.3. The only option is ClassZilla, which runs in Classic. And you can see here the Mac OS 9.2 startup window. What's happening, the Classic environment is an emulation layer built in to the early versions of Mac OS 10. So you could actually run Mac OS 9 side by side. ClassZilla is a web browser that runs under Mac OS 9. However, it's the single most up-to-date browser that you can use on 10.3, 10.2, 10.1, 10.0. And there it starts up. All right. Now, we can take a little bit more of a look at this when we get to OS 9. My intention actually after this video is going to be to take a deeper dive into OS 9. There is an email application built into this. Probably shouldn't have clicked on it. Do you see that little icon there? It looks like a wristwatch. That is the Mac OS 9 version of the spinning beach ball. And we're getting that while ClassZilla loads up all of my email. Okay, but we can close out. Well, no, we can't close out of that because, okay, there we go. And we still have the icon. And as long as we have that icon, okay, now we can quit. All right. Now also with word processing, we have the Microsoft Office suite here, but it too will run under Classic. You can tell it's running under Classic. You see that wonderful, beautiful rainbow apple icon that used to appear in the Classic Mac OS? They started calling it Classic Mac OS because of the Classic environment. That's going to tell you for sure that you're running under Classic. If I click out of it into Finder, you get the aqua blue icon. That's now a black icon. Okay. So you can choose exactly what kind of project you're going to open up. I'll quit out of that. It's going to get a Word document and we're going to just quit. Now, I tried to install iWork. I think I mentioned that iWork won't install. I did find, however, that AppleWorks will install. You can choose a word processing document, and this is running under OS 10, so there is
an actual native OS 10 option for Office suites. Yeah, typing around tripod is a challenge. Okay, and you go to save. Now it's going to save under an odd format, CWK. That actually originally would have been ClarisWorks, which was the predecessor of AppleWorks. Okay. However, you can save as a Word Mac document, Word Mac 98, Word Windows. So you would be able to make any of your documents, whether it's word processor or spreadsheet, presentation, could all be saved in a Word-oriented format and thus be saved. Okay, we're going to quit AppleWorks. We don't need to save that. All right, so that's OS 10.3. A lot of what you need here involves Classic. Let's backstep. Jaguar. Restart. Yeah, a slightly different version of the wallpaper. Everything else is really pretty similar. When we look down the dock, we've got mail. I removed Safari because it was kind of pointless. We do have a somewhat earlier version of iLife, AppleWorks. Again, I tried to install iWorks. I was not able to because it required, I believe, 10.2.3, and I've got a vanilla 10.2, so we're stuck. Sherlock, interesting. That's the old OS 9 search that hung through from 10.0, 10.1, 10.2. Okay. The web browser is still ClassZilla. AppleWorks, exactly as in 10.3, opens natively in OS 10, but you do have these three from the Office suite. Now, I tried to install the print shop. I couldn't do it because it required 10.2.3. It would even install in 10.1 if you had the a higher point release. I had hoped that someone somewhere would have archived those installers, but I guess not. Okay, so let's move along. The next operating system would be 9.2.2. And hopefully it's going to boot up. Sometimes if I go from Jaguar directly to OS 9, something funny happens. I love it. There's no Apple. It went by so quickly. You saw Happy Mac. This is the last version of the classic Mac OS. I love this wallpaper. And the faded purple scheme and tile little Happy Macs. Okay, unnamed device. That's the Bluetooth dongle. Okay. I think because I didn't open any OS 9 applications on Jaguar, we're okay. All right. If you're used to using OS 10, this is not really that different. You've got your menu bar here. There is no dock. Your frequently used applications are going to be down here along the side. Just as is with OS 10, any hard drives or SSDs you have installed in the systems are going to be listed here. Sherlock the search. Public files, that will probably change in my usage. Just that was an attempt to get network sharing to work. Back in the day, 10 years ago, I had an iMac G3, and I would boot it up into OS 9, and I could use OS 9 pretty easily, and I could join on my network and mount network shares. It no longer seems to be possible. Okay, ClassZilla is there. Word, or any of the other components of the Office suite. QuickTime. After Dark Screensaver, you actually have to install the screensaver separately. Drop Stuff and Stuff It Expander. You download things very often. You have to unzip them, basically. That's what Stuff It does. Print Shop. It's the same exact print shop that ran on OS 10. The big advantage is that you don't have to load the CD. So you can start your project. Now, this is just a sample project. It's a birthday greeting. You can fill this in, change the graphics if you want, change the text in any way that you want. You take graphics out, put other graphics in. There's a lot you can do. The layering works really, really well. I use it occasionally, now that I'm retired from teaching, to this day. And it'll work just as well on OS 9 as it does on OS 10.4 or higher. Okay, close anything. exactly the same. Drop down the File menu and select Quit. They all work in exactly that way. Apple works. It's exactly the same as on OS 10. Okay, there we go. Quit it. Yeah, you get the same save options. All of that is the same. Okay, and I installed, just for the heck of it, Netscape 7.0, actually 7.0.2, the last version of Netscape that would run on OS 9 before they released 7.1 and finally 7.2. And I installed this. This default start page won't load up. That's sad. Oops. Pardon my faulty reach around typing. Google will always come up. There'll be errors, but okay, there we go. And it can get a fair number of places. The reason why this is so nostalgic for me, back in the day, I was, and I guess in a sense I still am, a Netscape / Mozilla champion. Jay Garcia, who was the guiding light of the champs, always said, once a champion, always a champion. So I suppose I still am. The champs were, a peer-to-peer support group for users of the Netscape and then Mozilla Suite browsers. All right. Now I'm going to close out of that. This video is getting very long. Where I'm going to go from here, I am not done exploring vintage Macs, not at all. It's at least a couple more to come, but that's going to have to wait a while. I think the next video I'm going to do is going to be a deeper dive into Mac OS 9 and what you can do with it, how it differs from OS 10, but more importantly, just how similar it is. One thing that's different, shutting it down. You see the special menu here. You can go to the Apple menu, nothing there. Now if you wanted to go to another operating system, you have to go to Control Panels, then you choose Startup Disk. And much the same way, you can choose from your various options. Okay, there's no dock. All of these icons are going to have to suffice for your frequently opened programs. There is, however, a control strip down here, which accesses some of the key control panels. Unfortunately, Startup Disk is not one of them. You can hide the control panel so you get your full screen available. And to shut it down, special, shut down, and there we go. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. As I say, we'll take a deeper look into OS 9, and there's a couple more vintage Macs to come, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for your attention and for watching this video. I do apologize. I am going to have to make an already too long video longer. Just as I was rendering out my video on how you can use PowerPC Macs in 2020, as long as you realize that they will be slow and you have to be patient, he uploaded a video about how you can use PowerPC Macs in 2020 as long as you are patient and realize that they are slow. All right. In a comment on that video, I asked him if he knew where one could find the updates for Panther and Jaguar. His answer was basically Apple still has them. Go look for them. He was right. I went and looked, and I had looked, but evidently not hard enough. So I looked a little harder, and in fact, there they are. We're on the Panther desktop now. Go about this Mac. Son of a gun, 10.3.9, that's the maximum version. Even found the Java update while I was there. And now we'll go check out Jaguar. I love that sound. This, of course, is me being lazy because I didn't want to add a whole bunch of different clips in. I should have, but there you go. Come on, computer. There we go. Okay, I really need to do a screen adjustment, but we can at least do about this Mac and see Mac OS 10 10.2.8. That is the maximum Jaguar update. I even did an update for, it was really applied to dual processor G4s, but what the heck, it was there. So thank you, Greg. I do appreciate your spurring me on to greater heights of Googling. I didn't mention earlier, my plans for this machine is to get another SSD and split that so that OS 9 and Tiger are both on that one SSD, and then have Panther, Jaguar, and OS 8.6 on the other. The reason for OS 8.6, very simply, that was what this shipped with. I like putting on the OS that a machine shipped with. So anyhow, that comes for the future. Again, thank you for your attention. I'm sorry that I made this even longer. Take care.